Technology changes America. In this lecture, I'm going to address Virginia SOL US2.6a. The essential information that you will need to know includes: how was social and economic life in the early 20th century different from that in the late 19th century? And what factors increased factory and labor productivity? Now first we're going to begin with the changes in the early 1900s, starting with mass production. Henry Ford and other industrialists used assembly lines to increase the speed of production. For example, Ford reduced the time it took to produce one car from about 12 hours in 1910 to about 2 hours in 1913. And by the 1920s, many goods were produced much faster than they had been previously. This, of course, will lead to lower costs. New transportation included not just cars, but electric street cars helped give people the opportunity to travel within cities. Cars would become popular, and then, and especially with the availability of them, the fact that they were affordable, like the Ford Model T, they soon became owned. Cars were owned by 1 out of every 5 Americans by the late 1920s. Also, mail delivery by air began in 1918, and then commercial passenger flights started in 1927. So we're beginning to see transportation branching out and more opportunities to travel farther than most people had really traveled before, and having more freedom than they had previously. Cities were also growing along with the expansion of industry. The automobile industry in particular led to the growth of cities. Many of the cities started building out due to the growth of industry within them. But the car also allowed people to move to outer areas, so they didn't have to necessarily live right next door to where they worked. Electricity is a very major factor in the development of cities and the development of technology in the United States in the early 20th century. Factories used electricity to power machines and to light their buildings. Factories no longer needed to be located near water power. New technology allowed electricity to be more easily transmitted over a distance through electrical lines and high-level electrical lines, high-power electrical lines. New technology could be transmitted over those distances, meaning that homes could be away from the center of cities, and they could have access to electric lights and appliances like the washing machine. They would also have access to the radio. Really, probably one of the favorite appliances in most homes during the 20s and the 1930s. And along with the radio shows, just as TV shows fill our purposes for entertainment on television today, there were radio shows that were very similar to those back then. Now, what were the effects on the economy and landscape? In other words, what impact did that technology have? Well, in general, prosperity. The 1920s was a time of prosperity. Improved technologies helped factories produce more goods, and workers were able to earn more money. So they could buy things like vacuum cleaners and washing machines. Faster production made goods less expensive, and people were also able to buy goods on credit, so they didn't have to buy something outright. They could put a small amount of money down and then make payments on it. So many people were buying stuff on credit. And in addition to this, there were also advances in communication. Things like the telephone and radio will change life dramatically in the United States. Roads. The growth of automobiles in the United States led to the need for better roads. Many of the roads were just simply dirt roads. So they began a process of paving roads, at first primarily with concrete. At this time, roads were generally paved with concrete or asphalt. And in addition to this, in 1916, the federal government began to pay half of the cost of highways that were built by the states. So you had the states and the federal government working together to construct a highway system. Many of these highways are actually still around today. They're known as the White Shield highways. They're as apart from the interstate system. By 1930, most major cities in the United States were connected by paved roads, and trucks competed with railroads to deliver goods nationwide. You also had the growth of roadside businesses like gas stations, motels, restaurants. This is also the time where you start getting tour books that come out. So you can actually find out where the best lodging is, where the best places to eat are. And these were things that you would get, that you would take along with you when you went on any type of road trip. There were also changes in the cities. Improvements in construction techniques and materials made skyscrapers possible, what's known as steel cage construction. The scaffolding combined with steel, along with the elevator, skyscrapers allowed cities to make better use of the land and allowed more people to live and work in less space. So with cars and electric streetcars and subways, stuff like that, cities were able to grow outwards, but skyscrapers allowed cities to grow upwards. Changes in transportation allowed cities to grow outward. You had the development of suburbs during this time, and people started living farther away from work or other services because you could travel more easily. Once you had access to a car or a streetcar or a subway, this was all possible. So this expansion away from the center, despite the improvements that allowed cities to grow up, there was an expansion outward. This is sometimes referred to as urban sprawl. New York City is probably a really good example of this, not just today, but even back in the 1920s. So, in summary, technology extended progress into all areas of American life, including neglected rural areas. This is the conclusion of this lecture. Be sure to hand in your assignment as soon as possible. Thanks.